Welcome everyone to the NBA show in the Predictive Playbook. We call this show the Triple Double. And the reason we call it that, folks, is because we break down three games here with Ronald Cabang, who is known as Capper on Twitter. So be sure to follow him if you already are not. And the two of us, being the double, will go through three games on the NBA card. Today, we have three games. Fortunately, we'll be able to get through all of them. First of all, I want to welcome Ronald to the show. How has the weekend been? How are things going for you?
Yeah, it went well. Yesterday went 2-0, so that was a good day. NFL has been great so far. The last few weeks, actually the last couple months, I'm hitting over 60% in the NFL right now. So yeah, the
That's
weekend
awesome.
was great. Yeah.
Yeah, very good. So let's get right to it here. We're going to just tee it up here with the first game on our slate is the Milwaukee Bucks. 4-6, 3-2 on the road, taking on the depleted 76ers.
Yeah.
They're now 8-3 on the season after a loss last night to the Knicks, but that was without Embiid and basically half the team. I'm
Yeah.
leaning Milwaukee here, but maybe you have something that'll tell me not to bet Milwaukee. So I'm a little scared about how the Sixers are playing with such great chemistry and offensive efficiency. So I'll
hmm
turn it over to you.
Yeah, so I mean, so the Bucks are on a two-game losing streak. They're averaging only 96 points per game while giving up 107 points per game in those losses. But the Sixers are on the tail end of back-to-back home games, and they're going to be shorthanded once again without Harris and Embiid and Thibault. Right now, I'm seeing the Bucks as 6-point favorites on the road. Some spots are at 5.5. I know the Bucks are still without Middleton and Lopez, but the Sixers are their losses. I feel like are more significant in my opinion. Embiid and Harris have the highest usage percentage and player efficiency rating on the team. Those two combined for the Sixers are very hard to replace. I think this is sort of like a get right spot for the Bucks here, and they take advantage of a shorthanded squad missing their top two players. So right now, I'm leaning the 76ers -6. I was leaning the under on the total. It opened up at 222.5, I believe, but it steamed down pretty quickly to 218, and I think that might continue to fall. So I'm gonna lay off the total there, but I am leaning the 76ers today.
Yeah, I think
Sorry,
that's
I'm leaning the Bucks. Sorry.
right,
Yeah.
right. And I think that's the way to play this, folks. I agree with that lean for sure. And when the Sixers get back to health, though, don't forget that right now they are the number one ranked team in the NBA in effective field goal percentage
Yeah.
at 58%. And points per game, they're number six at 111.1. But they rank dead last in field goal attempts per game. So they play
Yeah.
at a very slow pace,
Yeah.
but they're so efficient that I really haven't seen a team like this. So
Yeah.
when Embiid is in the game, you will have slower paced games.
hmm
When he's out of the game, and Harris are both out, I've found in the statistics that they play much faster, up to upwards of 124 um, possessions per 124 points per 100 possessions is the pace. With
hmm
Embiid in the game, it's right around 114, 115.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
more likely to go under right now when Embiid's in the game overall, and possibly more likely to go over other times. But
Yeah.
I definitely agree with your under lean here, Ronald. So let's get to the next one here, and that would be the second game of the night, and we're looking at the Atlanta Hawks. We're going through a gauntlet. They're
Yeah.
playing 7 games in 12 days against the NBA elite, and
Yeah.
so far they're not doing so good. They get I thought they'd actually win last night. They were up at basically the half, I believe, and then they just couldn't finish it off. And I know it's early in the season, Ronald, but maybe fatigue is a factor here. Trae Young had a huge night, and it still wasn't
hmm
enough.
Yeah.
Jazz are off to a 7-3. They're undefeated at home, favored by 8. Totals 222. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Hawks are just a different team on the road. Right now, I think this season they're 1-6 straight up and 1-6 against the spread on the road. and they're out here in the West Coast, and they've had a rough West Coast trip here, and it's not going to get any easier. They were in Phoenix, then they played Golden State. They got the Jazz, and then the Nuggets next, all on the road here. And so that's just a tough schedule. And I think when they get back home, their first game is, I think, against the Bucks or
It is.
maybe. Yeah,
Yep,
so
it
I mean
is.
they have a rough schedule right now, and they're just struggling defensively as well as a whole. I think they're in the top bottom third of the league in defensive rating,
Hmm.
and they're facing a Jazz team who's like top 5 in offensive rating. So it's going to be a struggle for them to kind of get right in this road trip. But the I think the line is at 8.
Yep,
If I'm
that's
correct,
correct.
yeah. So
Yep.
I feel like that's a little bit too high for my liking. So I'm likely gonna pass on this. But if I were to have to make a bet on this, I would probably do like an under here. Only because I feel like the Jazz are coming off sort of like an embarrassing loss to one of the bottom tier leagues teams in the league in the Magic. And sometimes when top tier teams lose like that in an embarrassing game, they kind of try to overcompensate and try too hard to kind of start off strong the next game, and they end up falling flat. So I think that's sort of this situation here. And the Hawks are. I mean, I know, I know defensively they're struggling, but I think in this type of situation when they play a key game, maybe um, you know maybe they play a little bit better against a top tier team.
Yeah, the Hawks are they at least had a day of rest after you know losing their fourth in a row. They haven't been shooting the ball that well. The yo-yo though that Utah is, they shot 50.6% in a win against the Atlanta Hawks back on November 4th, and that was at Atlanta. So Atlanta
Yeah,
does have revenge, adding to what you're saying.
yeah,
And then at Miami, they shot 51.8 in a 3-point loss. They allowed 60% shooting, which is so unlike Utah ish.
hmm,
And at Orlando, you said minus 11 and lose by 7. I mean, what the heck happened there?
yeah,
I like one little thing on the Utah Jazz. They shoot 50% 2 games in a row or better.
yeah,
There is a tendency in NBA that you regress after that a little bit, if unless you're a juggernaut like Golden State was a few years back.
yeah,
Then all of a sudden they go the complete opposite, 38%. And NBA teams that are winning record teams that shoot under 40 percent usually bounce back. And you were alluding to that as a factor probably contributing to the higher than expected line, making Utah an 8-point favorite.
yeah.
Uh, so I'm with you. I'm not ready to play this game or go to the window by any stretch of the imagination, but my lean would be that Atlanta comes up with a bigger effort tonight, and Utah, like you said, tries too hard. Even at the pro level, that can happen.
Yeah, yeah.
So the last game is one that I personally like, and it's on the Trailblazers, who are now finally 5-5, but they're winless on the road, 0-4, going against definitely a contender in the LA Clippers, 5-4, 3-2 at home. Staples Center is the location here. CJ McCollum is averaging 22.1 points per game, 4.3 assists, and 4.1 assists per game. That's basically has led the team,
Hmm.
while Damian Lillard was trying to find out how to shoot the basketball again, and
Yeah,
it was really incredible. I mean, all the was it 8 games, and he was shooting 35%, not from 3-point line
yeah,
overall.
yeah.
And then we saw in the last game that all right, nothing to really worry about here. And I got to think, Ronald, at this level, a guy like him finds the groove, finds the rhythm,
Yeah.
gets used to the new basketball, whatever the heck it was that made him shoot
Hmm.
35%.
Hmm.
And he comes back with another big effort tonight, which spills over to the rest of the team. And I think +3 here is a pretty good value.
Yeah, I was actually looking at the money line here. I think it's at plus 130. I'm with you on the Blazers here. I think the Clippers, I mean, they're both coming in hot. They both are on a win streak. Blazers are on a 2-game win streak, Clippers on a 4-game win streak. But the Clippers wins are just less impressive if you look at who they beat, right? They beat the Thunder. They beat the Wolves twice, and both times without D'Angelo Russell. Then they beat a Hornets team who are kind of starting to regress a little bit after a hot start to the season. I know the Blazers didn't look overwhelmingly great in their wins either. Like you mentioned, Lillard hasn't looked great this season. But I think, I tweeted this out earlier this week or late last week. That Lillard seems like he doesn't want to be on the squad in Portland anymore. In that game against the Pacers, late in the game, where Dame would have normally, kept the ball and, obviously like, game time or whatever, but instead he gave it up. And that's kind of a sign to me that something's different with Lillard. But I think if the fans see it, if the public sees it, obviously he knows I feel like if he sees that, he understands that we see it, he's probably going to turn around and say, it's hurting his own stock. So he has to play better. And I think that's what happened this last game where, he played a lot better than he did. Probably one of his better games of the season. And I think he continues to get better and kind of increase his stock back up. I feel like he's going to be gone by midseason, to be honest. But I do like the Blazers in the spot.
That's a very interesting storyline there, and that's one that you and I will definitely follow in future shows for sure.
Yeah.
Because there'll be a lot of teams, I think, that knowing that if he wanted to play for them, probably would put up quite a few assets in order to get him. I mean, he's still one of the best.
Yeah.
The Clippers are without Leonard too. He's out indefinitely following that knee surgery, unfortunately for them. And that offense is trying to find its way. It's the new identity without him on the floor. But thank goodness for Paul George, who's averaging 27 points a game. But I still maintain that Portland, right now as we speak, is the better team, and it would behoove
sure.
it would behoove Lillard to play well to increase his his value. We all seen what happens when you don't play a game like Ben Simmons and drive the asset value, your net worth down in trade value. And I'll conclude with one thought here, Ron. I've been so impressed with the Sixers, and the Sixers media says, we don't need Simmons, we don't need this. But the flip side of it is that if he gets his head on right and they settle this and just move forward. Okay, let's put this behind us. It was awful. Let's move forward. His defensive presence alone, I just can't even imagine how good that team could be potentially. And I think it'd be a shame if they don't, somehow figure it out.
Yeah, I think to me, I mean, you mentioned earlier, the offensive efficiency of the 76ers, and I think it has to do with how they're able to spread the court, right? I think with Ben Simmons, obviously he brings that defensive aspect of the game, one of the best on-ball defenders in the league, obviously, but it affects their offense. So there's sort of like that balance there, right? I think true. if Ben Simmons, if they do make it work with Ben Simmons, yes, their defense will get better. But offensively, that number one efficiency rating will probably go down. So it's really a matter of chemistry. Whether or not he comes back, I think that's going to be tough on the players. The offensive defensive efficiency ratings will balance out, but it'll hurt the chemistry as a whole.
Yeah, that's a good point, Ron. And maybe it's too late for this to even be settled. And it's better, to part ways and move on. Sometimes we use the word divorce in the sports industry, and maybe this is on its way to the court to get that divorce done. And that's a very good point. That's a good counterpoint you just made about that. I don't think Simmons would be willing to be a sixth man, like first man off the bench, because that actually might work. But I don't think he'd be willing to take that. So it's you're right. It's probably time for me to forget about what could have been, what should have, could have, should have been.
Yeah, I think
they're playing pretty well without him.
Yeah, I think Simmons is done in Philly. I don't know what's gonna happen there, to be honest. But I don't think he's gonna play another game.
I think you're right. And Ronald, thanks for your time. We have leans, folks, so far today on the Bucks, the Hawks, and personally, I'll give a best bet right now. This will be a 4%er for my premium clients on the Trailblazers, plus the 3. And if it gets down to plus 2.5, I would recommend a money line, like Ronald suggested as well.
Yeah, and for me, my free plays today will be the Bucks minus 5.5, and then also the Blazers. I'm with you on the Blazers there. So yeah, those are my leans today. I'm probably gonna pass on that Jazz game.
Sounds great, Ronald. So on behalf of Ronald, myself, the Triple Double NBA show powered by SportsMemo TV. Good luck tonight. Thanks for listening, and may all the wins be yours.